Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to talk about the subtle lies and the subtle frauds of faking the facts and building up cases and building up frauds to persecute people. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you a little bit about the looted trillions and the obvious corruption over at DOJ and FBI with creating and making up fake intelligence dossiers on people like, excuse me, I got a little fur going on there from the dog, making up stories to try to destroy people like the candidacy of Donald Trump to rig a national election. Now, folks, I don't know how dirty it gets, but apparently when the FBI wants to paint somebody and smear somebody, they create fake dossiers with the Clintons. Pretty interesting stuff. Bill the Blowjob Clinton. And I did not have sexual relations with the Arkansas Industrial Development Bank. I did not have sexual relations running all kinds of dope and narcotics through the Mena airport. And of course we have George H. Bush and George W. Bush with the Clintons. Let's not leave the Clintons out of this. Operating out of uptown Houston during the Congressman Charlie Wilson and Joanna Herring King operations with Oliver North and Richard Secord and the enterprising Admiral Poindexter and CIA Director Mr. Bill Casey, with Robert Owens and Bud McFarland and the whole cast of Bin Laden, the Bin Laden characters with the Mujahideen and the Al-Qaeda and all the little terrorists like Manuel Noriega and Imelda and Ferdinand Marcos, all operating out of the 26th floor of the Houstonian Estates, which I built. And if you got any problems with that comment, well, you get a hold of Ralph, Bruce, and Stan Merrick. And my old General Super City, he was citywide superintendent for the Merrick Brothers Systems and Commercial Drywall Incorporated. You get a hold of Glenn Brabham and the members of my family and ask them how many years I worked on the ultra luxurious condominiums in Houston, including the Bush Suite at the Houstonian Estates. Even former United States Secret Service agent Rick Williams, who's currently security head, he's the head of security for Conoco or Phillips, whatever it is, there in the Woodlands, Texas. Hi, Rick Williams. You know, it's funny, Rick, I had a fella that's drug interdiction agent for U.S. Customs. His name was Thomas Williams, and his wife, Candy Williams. And then, of course, we had Guy Williams, the sheriff of Montgomery County, Texas. Hi, Guy Williams. You remember that plane that tried to burn my home down? Sheriff Guy Williams? And Sheriff Rand Henderson, if you know where Guy Williams is, I need to have a little chat with Sheriff Guy Williams about the plane, the FBI's Britain Defender, that dropped flares all over my home in Texas. Yeah, they tried to burn my home down to, you know, wipe me out. And, you know, we're talking about looted trillions and cooked up dossiers. Fabricated, cooked up dossiers, President Donald Trump. Imagine that. The deep state, the swamp, in their involvement with the looting of the savings and loans in the banks during the 1960s and 70s and 80s and 90s and into the 2000s, they stole many trillions. Donald J. Trump, Mr. Mike Pence, and Attorney General Sessions. I guess it's Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General of the United States with, I don't know, John Ashcroft, Alberto Gonzales, Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch. How many trillions were stolen using real estate scheming and scamming? Like, I don't know, Lee Farkas and Dean Couch of the Couch Mortgage Company, and every other major swindle and scam involving the flipping of real estate and the speculative investment in commercial, retail, industrial, and land speculation, land development scheming and scamming in the southwestern United States. Maybe we need to get a hold of Professor William Black and Matt Tavey, and we can get Gretchen Morgensen and, I don't know, Peter Bruton and Deborah Fricker from, the looting of the savings and loans, an inside job. And we can get Martin Mayer, who wrote the greatest bank robbery ever. And there's a whole cast of characters, including Catherine Wolford. Catherine Wolford and Linda Thompson of the Harris County Attorney's Office there in Houston, Texas. Let's talk about Danny Wall and Kenneth Starr and the massive, mind-bending, unbelievable looting of banks and savings and loans and the mortgage system using land speculation schemes and land speculation scams, also known as dirt dealing or dirt flipping and dirt churning that Bill and Hillary Clinton were doing in Arkansas. And I want to take you back, ladies and gentlemen. The Charlie Wilson's war there with Joanna Herring King and Secretary of State James Baker III of Baker and Botts in Houston, Texas. Judge Lee Rosenthal, United States District Judge Lee Rosenthal. We can talk about Baker and Botts and Secretary of State James Baker III now, can't we? And Senior Federal District Judge Lynn Hughes, he'd be great to have in this conversation because the largest modus operandi, the largest predicate scheme, the predicate acts of racketeering used to rob the savings and loans in the banks, well, it involved huge amounts of speculative real estate scheming and speculative real estate scamming. And this is all part of the DOJ, FBI's corruption. Because you see President Donald Trump cooking up fake dossiers and making up stories to smear and destroy people, wrecking their character and credibility, is something that was done to me. I'm the guy that blew the whistle very loudly in Houston, Texas about the banks and the savings and loans and all their dirty little dirt dealing, flipping and churning schemes and scams. You know, the dirt dealing. Rick Williams of the United States Secret Service is a material witness. And so isn't Montgomery County Judge Alvin Stahl, and Montgomery County Judge Jimmy C. Edwards III, and of course Montgomery County Judge Alan Barb Sadler. That's from my friend K.C. Tuckness. This video is no joke, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. You've got a massive game of smoke and mirrors going on, making certain that the gangster banksters are not completely exposed. You see, because when they get completely exposed is when you start asking questions about the $2.3 trillion that Don Rumsfeld couldn't account for over at the Pentagon. And then, of course, you've got about 8 or 9 trillion that the Federal Reserve can't account for, according to the congressional hearings of Alan Grayson. Congressman Alan Grayson had a federal, well, not FDIC, but the Federal Reserve come to testify before the Congress of the United States, and they got 8 or 9 trillion dollars that, well, reserve notes. They got 8 or 9 trillion reserve notes out there floating around. They can't explain, well, the Department of Defense can't do it either. The Department of Defense has later come up with they can't account for 8 or 9 or 10 trillion reserve notes either. There's so much money. There's so many trillions of dollars that have been used to fund this corrupt swamp. This massively out of control, corrupt, deep state. Barack Obama and Joe Biden, Loretta Lynch, Jim Comey, Robert Mueller. Come on down, buddy, and let's talk about all these massively robbed banks and savings and loans and mortgage companies. What have they been doing with all that stolen money, Jimmy Comey? And you know, we got this guy Christopher Wray and Jeff Sessions, and what's amazing about this particular video is there's not one person in the world that can question the accuracy or the veracity or the truthfulness of what I'm discussing. There has been a run on the banks and the financial institutions that's been going on since the late 1800s. This real estate scheming and scamming and swindling and all this interstate racketeering is what caused the banking and savings and loan collapse in 1929, 1930. And, of course, the Great Depression. Texas real estate development laws, specifically Judge Sadler, former Texas Penal Code 1137H, and the Texas property development laws under former Texas civil statutes, Black's civil statutes, Article 6626A through Article 6626C, outlawed all this unrecorded, secretive, we don't reveal who owns what or who's got financial interests, and the crooked, unrecorded, illegal, ghost paper, toxic zombie, red flag, illegal, very illegal, Judge Sadler, land developments that are so famous all over Texas and Arizona and Utah. Utah's full of these, well, I almost said bullshit, these bullshit illegal land deals, like over in Florida and up in the Poconos and out in Hawaii and up in Alaska, and you know, this land swindling, dirt flipping, dirt dealing, dirt churning, speculative real estate garbage is at the very heart, the epicenter of missing trillions. Now, President Donald Trump, and of course MSNBC, and CNN. Old Ted Turner, come on down, Ted. And bring Nelda Luce Radabow Blair with you. And bring her husband, Jim Blair. And we'll have us a little discussion on how we use crooked little land development schemes and scams to rob billions, tens and hundreds of billions from banks and mortgage companies and savings and loans and the Federal Home Loan Bank and FHA and VA and HUD. HUD's been hit massively with all these funny little land development apartment schemes, lots of condominium schemes, mixed retail and mixed, multiple housing development units. They call them units these days, I guess. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, it would appear that Donald J. Trump has been smeared and attacked with false intelligence and a fake dossier made possible by Bill and Hillary Clinton and people like George H. Bush and George W. Bush. They're from the very heart of the Iran-Contra, Charlie Wilson's War Operations Central there in uptown Houston. Now, you know something, George Bush and George Bush and Hill and Bill? Isn't it funny how all that bin Laden stuff was going on over at the Gulf Manor Airport? Isn't it odd, Bill and Hill and George and George Bush and, I don't know, Ronald Reagan, John Ashcroft? Come on down, John Ashcroft. Let's talk about it with Ed Meese. And bring Janet Reno with you. And Louis Free and Bud McFarland. Bring Bud McFarland. And you can bring Oliver North. Because you see, Oliver North and Richard Secord used to go down to uptown Houston all the time and gather up money there in the Western Galleria Hotel there off of Westheimer there in uptown Houston. That's where they had their fundraisers. Isn't this correct, Oliver North? You know, the chairman of the National Rifle Association. That Oliver North. Now let's get down to some brass tacks here, ladies and gentlemen. This nation has been robbed for so much money. It's mind-bending. It's unprecedented in the history of the Republic. And the odd thing about it all is, the very, very odd thing about it all is most of the powerful politicians, the most powerful politicians in American history have received massive political campaign donations from the criminals. And no, it wasn't just Jim and Susan McDougal and Wade Real Estate and Ozark Realty, and everybody's heard of Quapaw Title up in Arkansas. So to all my family and friends, especially to all my family, I want you to know something. I want you to remember something. For some odd, crazy reason, massive real estate scheming and massive real estate scamming seem to be directly connected to the largest bank lootings and savings and loan lootings and mortgage company lootings in the history of the world. And that's for a little lady out there that's of Viking descent and Cherokee descent, and she's got quite a bit of Irish blood. And this wonderful girl sparkles like very few people I've ever met in my life. This is one stick of dynamite. The lady's dynamite. And I want her to know, I want her whole family to understand something. When the system goes to work on you to try to ruin you and to destroy your character and credibility and wreck your public image, well, they make up stories. They, very craftily and very slightly, change the truth and the facts to slam you into the system. They make up stories. I mean, they try to cut you ear from ear. They make up those kind of stories. Donald Trump, what do you think? And to all the news media in the country, particularly all the news media, including the Houston Chronicle and Lacey Olson, their special investigative reporter there in Houston. What went down in Texas, Miss Lacey Olson, is exactly how I'm telling it. And get a hold of Professor William Black. And let's get a hold of a panel of experts on just how it is they use real estate scheming and scamming to steal so much money, it will blow your mind. Ask Professor William Black. Get a hold of Catherine Wolford, the white elephant lady. Come on down, Cat Wolford. Let's talk about it. You were with Bearing Point, you were with USAID, and now you're over there, I guess, at the World Bank and or the IMF, one of the two. And you're an international consultant on fraud prevention, sort of like you were with the FDIC, when you, Catherine Wolford, told me that Western Bank in Houston was the dirtiest bank in town. How about that, Judge Sadler? Western Bank, the dirtiest bank in town. And now Nell DeLuce, Radabow Blair, and the Herd Goggin Blair and Williams tax collection gang are operating out of 1300 Main Street, Houston, Texas. The RLG Westgate Investments Western Bank building, right smack dab in the middle of Houston, Texas. Isn't this a fascinating story? Conroe City Attorney Marcus Winberry. And if Don Blanton, the old Montgomery County engineer's out there floating around, see if you can't get old Guy Williams to send me an email so that I can have a little chat with Guy Williams, the former sheriff of Montgomery County, Texas. And we're going to talk Sheriff Rand Henderson and Sheriff Guy Williams about all that funny real estate scheming and scamming all over Texas. At the very heart of the looting of America's financial system, Jeff Sessions, Christopher Wray, and President Donald Trump. And if anyone in the world thinks that this video is a kidding around and joking, you're sorely mistaken. And Lou Dobbs and all those people that want to see the swamp get drained, you better start taking a good, long, hard look. You better start taking a really good, hard, long look at just exactly where all these hundreds of billions of dollars walked off to. Where in the flying hell are all the looted and missing trillions, Jeff Sessions? And to the Congressional and Senate banking committees, and especially to the United States Senate Committee on Intelligence and the Judiciary Committees of Congress and Senate, where in the hell is all this Federal Reserve note legal tender? Where the hell is it all gone? How many elections have they rigged with all this stolen loot? Christopher Wray, director of the FBI. So to a little stick of dynamite, and believe me, she's a stick of dynamite, a wonderful girl, very intelligent, and just wow, she's something. When they go to work on you and they change the story and they they make up some baloney to slam you, Trust me, Donald Trump knows exactly what we're talking about here. Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States, and Hillary Clinton, and Bill Clinton, and Loretta Lynch, and Eric Holder, and heck, Eric Schneiderman, and who was that other guy there? I can't think of his name. It'll come to me here. Oh, Spitzer. Elliot Spitzer. Neil Bromsky. They were foaming the runways, weren't they, Mr. Bromsky? And Professor William Black, and the independent reporters and editors, the investigative reporters there at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, you know for a fact that everything that I just discussed is part of that well-financed orgy. That well-financed orgy. Look that one up. It's in the Great Texas Bank Job and in the Paper Land Con. And if you get on the internet and want to find out what actually happened, go to any search engine you want. This is one big long word. Toxic zombie developments. The looting of America. Catherine Austin Fitts. You know, come on down, Catherine Austin Fitts, and bring Gretchen Morgensen and Mr. Roshner of reckless endangerment. Bring those people with you, because we can have us a discussion on the massive, unbelievable looting of the American financial system. And yes, Hillary Clinton using Ozark Realty and Wade Real Estate, Quapaw title, Arkansas Industrial Development Bank, schemes and scams. Down there to Little Rock, they call it dirt dealing. Dirt dealing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave it right there. This video is getting a little bit long. And, well, I said it. Look it up. And you can count on one thing. It's the fact. It's the truth. 100% accurate. So, last thing I'm going to say. When they go setting people up and smearing them and character assassinating them to shut them up, they've tried to do it to me. But for some odd reason, there's trillions upon trillions upon trillions of reasons that they got exposed. Y'all exposed. God bless. Hasta la vista, and you betcha. We're definitely, positively, with certainty, coming back.